this is the bandsaw. We have two bandsaws in the wood shop. Both of the bandsaws, safety things, are pretty much the exact same. The table on this one's a little bit higher than the other one, but other than that, they pretty much work the same. So we're going to be talking about just some of the purposes and safety with using the bandsaw. So the purpose of the bandsaw is to make a lot of different kinds of cuts. The accuracy is not a big part of the bandsaw. So if you want a 90-degree cut with a 90-degree angle, that's what you'd use the miter saw or even the table saw for. But if you're not super worried about the angle on it, you're going to use the bandsaw. Also, sometimes just for skill-wise, we use the bandsaw just because it's a little bit easier to use than some other tools for the same purpose. So with main things with the bandsaw, the blade is right here. If I were to open this up, you can see this blade is a big band, and that's why it's called the bandsaw. So it runs on a big blade. It runs on two wheels. There's a wheel down at the bottom, and then there's a wheel up at the top. And these doors need to be shut. If you're running the bandsaw, if you're turning it on, these doors need to be shut and locked. So make sure of that. So those are nice and tight and locked. This is a guard, but it's also for tracking. So there's two bearings here. There's a bearing here, and then there's a bearing there. And these help keep the blade on track. So it's super important that when you come up to the bandsaw, if it looks like this, where there's a ton of the blade exposed, so this is up really, really, really high, we need to make sure that we bring this down, because right now there's not much helping that blade out. There's not much tracking that blade, and there's also a lot of blade exposed, and there really doesn't need to be a lot of blade exposed if we're making a smaller cut. If we're making a tall cut and we have the fence over and we need this to be up and out of the way, that's okay. If we need the fence this close to our blade, that is okay, because there's nothing we can really do about it. But if our fence is moved away, we're cutting a shorter piece, this should definitely be brought down. To bring the blade down, you loosen this knob right here. This loosens, and then you spin this wheel, and then this will move it either up or down, depending on the way that you spin it. So if I spin it this way, I can see that my yellow guard is going down, and then it does have a ruler on the side to give you an exact measurement of how far down this is. You really won't ever need to use that. So again, it's this wheel, this first wheel. Don't ever touch this wheel, okay? That messes with the way that the blade runs. So you definitely want to make sure that you're only touching this wheel right here. And then once you have this positioned where you want it, so I have that guard down where I want it, I would want to tighten this up so that this can't move up and down. So I am going to just make a straight cut on this piece of wood. You're going to make sure you're wearing your safety glasses, your hair is up, and any other safety precautions have been taken. I am going to press the on button. It is the blue button on the side of the machine, and the off button is the big red button, and that's how you turn it off. So to turn on, I'm just going to press that blue button, and then I will make this cut. And then you should turn this off before you walk away, unless there is a line of people behind you. You should wait for it to turn completely off and stop spinning, so once the blade stops moving, then you can walk away. So you shouldn't walk away while the blade is still moving, because someone can walk up, think that it's not on, put their hand in there, and accidentally get cut. If there is a line of people behind you, I am okay with you keeping that on. Something that is also really important when you're making a cut on the bandsaw is the radius of your turn. So here are two different lines. And this line is an example of something that is way too curved to be cutting on the bandsaw. So the blade has a width, and it can't turn that sharp. So you could still cut something like this. It'll just be a different technique, and you won't be coming in and turning and turning and turning. You'd be coming in one direction, back out, and then go in the other direction, back out, and then you'd kind of rake this out. So raking is when you're going backwards on the bandsaw, and it's just taking off the smallest amount of material. Then this is an example of a good line that you could cut on the bandsaw. It's curved, but it's not too curved, and you can kind of follow that line pretty easily, and the bandsaw can make that radius of a turn. So I am going to show you how to cut this one on the bandsaw, and then I'll show you an example of raking so that you know what that is. So I am gonna cut this line and show you how to do that. So this is the sharpest curve that you would want to cut on the bandsaw, and I was still even having just a little bit of trouble getting around those turns. It did it nicely, and I was able to get the cut that I wanted, but definitely wouldn't want to cut anything sharper than that. And then, so using this curve, I am going to show you what raking is. So raking, it's basically, I'll show you without the bandsaw on first, is you're going backwards. So you're going like this. So the teeth on the bandsaw sit like this, so when you go on the outside, it cuts on one side of the blade. So if I go like this, it cuts off just this slightest amount, and that's what raking is called. So you can maybe see this on the camera, maybe not, I'm not sure, but there's a tiny pencil line there, and instead of trying to go forward and get that tiny material off, I'm gonna rake backwards and to get that tiny material off. So it'll look like this. So then if you saw the pencil lines that were on that before, I was able to get right down to them by going backwards and using that raking technique. Just a couple more things about the bandsaws, just some side notes. There are a lot of knobs on there here. So there's this one, there's some down here, there's this wheel, there's that, and then there's these in the back as well, and there's these. So it's really important that you do not touch any of these knobs except for the ones to adjust the yellow guard. So this knob and this one. Other than that, don't pull this, okay? Don't touch this. You make sure you're not touching and messing with the bearings, and you're not messing with anything down here as well as back here. Okay, that's super important. That just adjusts different things on the machine, so you wanna make sure that those are staying the same as I have them set to where they need to be. And then the last thing is the dust collection. The dust collection does need to be open and on when you're using the bandsaw. It's not the end of the world if it isn't, but it should be open while you're using it just to keep things clean inside the machine. So what that looks like is this being pulled open. Most of the time it is open, but there is every once in a while where it will be shut like this. So it's your job to make sure that that is open. And then also scraps should not be coming back behind here. This is an example, a bad example of what this would look like. So this should be getting cleaned out. It should not have scraps back here. Your scraps should not be left on the table as well. Those should be taken from the table and put into the scrap bin.